Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Titan del 86. Here you will find everything from your favorite characters, from anime, series, or movies, such as figures, statues, trading cards, and other limited special edition items. I will show you everything that is included. For example, we will discuss the design of the box, how it's packaged, the design of the figure, the articulation points, the accessories that are included, and we will see our favorite characters in special scenes. And you never know, you might see other characters make special guest appearances, so you can decide whether it's worth getting or not. Subscribe and join me on new weekly adventures. Now let's start the show. Let's go. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. My name is Titan del 86, and today from Hot Toys and Marvel I present Miles Morales as the Prowler. You have a zoom in shot of Miles Morales as the Prowler, and then you got his logo all over the box. This is how he appeared at the end of the movie, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So this was the big plot twist towards the end of the movie, where Miles went to the wrong universe thinking it was his, and that's where he discovered a world without his dad, and that is where he ran into his counter self. Overall, the box is highly decorated to give it that theme that we saw in the movie Across the Spider-Verse, of how the figures basically translapped over space to basically show that glitchy effect. Upon removing the first cover of the box, now you can see Miles Morales through the window, and here you can see the figure and all of its content. On this particular section of the box is very plain. There's no real true design of anything, so it's kind of like at the beginning it was nice, hyped up, and very good design wise, but then now it went for a very plain one. Looking at the back side of the box, you see 3 snapshots of the figure of the Prowler doing various action poses, and then you can see the logo, which is the same one that he wears on his shirt. But other than that, the box is very plain. Nothing much more was done here. Here's an overview of the content that's included. So he comes in one blister pack that has the figure, the 2 head sculptures, a couple different hand features. He also comes with a stand, if you can look right there through the back. And he comes with a set of batteries, and he also comes with a backdrop for a special scenery of, you can see the city there. And then he's got 2 signs there that basically are quotes from the Prowler. One thing to note though is the backdrop is made out of the styrofoam cardboard, so just be very careful with it, and it's actually taped behind the back of the blister pack. So just be careful when you're removing the blister pack from the rest of the box, just so you don't damage it while you're pulling the figure out. Here's a close-up on the instructions that come with Miles Morales. In the first section, it shows you how to swap out the heads, and then how to use the feature to move the eyes around. Then it gives you the articulating angles of the figure, which they're not that many actually. Then it shows you how to remove the hair so you can install the batteries for the light effect parts, and then how to switch out the claws and how to power those up as well. Then it shows you some accessories there, and then how to use the spray cans with the hands, as well as how to attach the special effect features to the body. On the back side, it shows you how to attach the light flash effect in case you got the special edition of Miles Morales. Then it also shows you how to assemble the backdrop, including the stand, which also comes with some more accessories there. And then it shows you how to pose the figure. Then it gives you some warnings that you cannot remove the clothes and all that stuff. It also gives you a warning about being careful with the sharp objects. Then reading the whole thing, it's got a bunch of other warnings. So there you go. This is the 360 of Miles Morales as the Prowler straight out of the box. Overall, the figure is not as tall as I was thinking it was gonna be. One thing to note with these Spider-Man characters, they seem to have some really long legs and really long arms, and this one's no different. The other thing to note, I really like the details. The fabric doesn't feel overly bad either. It's got a lot of really good details on it, and he looks really amazing actually. One thing to note though, balancing him was a little bit more difficult than I was expecting, just because of how the figure seems to be a little bit top heavy versus the bottom, where you just have the shoes. I didn't really see too much articulation there, so that makes it a little bit more difficult. Plus you also got that metal backpack looking thing on the back side, which doesn't really help as far as distributing the weight. If you like what you're seeing, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking of this Miles Morales figure as the Prowler. I'm really loving the details that they included with them. They look really amazing on the figure. One thing that I noticed on my figure is in the instructions, the batteries attached in the head for the light effect part of the eyes, and on mine, the hairpiece is really loose. Let me know in the comments if you're seeing that as well on your figures. The other thing to know, when I was attaching the batteries in there, I noticed that the screw was a little bit stripped out. So that's a little bit lack on the quality side of the figure, but other than that, so far the figure seems pretty good. Once again, the details are amazing. I'm really liking what I'm seeing on this figure. And honestly, the face mask that he's wearing is superb. The other thing that's winning me over on the figure are the claws that he's got. They're really detailed, and I wasn't expecting them to be actually movable. I thought it was just going to be kind of like hard plastic, similar to how we get the other figures with different hand poses. But in these, they actually appear to be very articulated, which we'll explore that more in the next scenes. But overall, I'm really liking what I'm seeing here. He looks fantastic. Don't forget to follow me on IG at Titandel86. And again, this is Miles Morales as Prowler, as he appeared in the movie Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And hopefully we get to see more of this character in the next part of the movie saga. We first seen the first two parts, and this was kind of like the big cliffhanger where Miles Morales travels back to his dimension and he starts to think that he's back at home. And I really like how the scenery played out, because it made you think that all the characters were back in the same dimension. But as you keep getting into the details, there are little hints into it that makes it seem as if they're not. But there are also strong features there that says, hey, they're all in the same one. So I like how they really wrapped it up towards the end, just to lead into this climactic plot twist of the whole movie, of Miles Morales not being in his actual dimension and facing off against his counterpart that has become the Prowler. And honestly, he looked pretty cool. So I know this figure was released as an S.H.Figuarts, and I have pre-ordered that one as well. So once that one comes out, we'll do a comparison against this one. But so far, I'm really liking what I'm seeing here. It looks really fantastic, and the fabric doesn't feel bad either. It feels like a really good solid figure. Alright, now let's check out what articulation points come with this Miles Morales as the Prowler. So he's got good head movement. You can do side to side. This is as slow as you can see. This is as high as you can see, but you have to be careful because the braids are not articulated, so you don't want to bend them. So this is as maximum as he can look up. But he can give you a good left and a good right, as you see here. Because they do flex a little bit, but not a whole lot, since they're made out of slight plastic. So he's got some good head articulation. Now this is as high as I can get the shoulders. I feel the joint here, but I'm not really getting any good movement out of it. And I want to say it's probably because it's restrained by the jacket that he's wearing. You can see where it starts to bubble up in the section of the shoulder. Here is as high as the arms go, so you really have to fight for that articulation within the shoulders. And again, the jacket limits the rotation of the shoulders. So this is as high as I can get the arm. This is as far back as I can get it. So he's pretty limited as far as the arm movement goes. That's as far as I can get it. So technically he probably can do 360. The only issue is that he's limited by the jacket. He does have 360 off the bicep, as you can see there. And honestly, the suit right here reminds me of the Deadpool, if you guys remember that video. 90 degree off the elbow. Now the hands are really interesting because these are claws. Just be careful because they're really sharp. So he got good 360 out of that. But then as you notice, each one of the fingers has articulation points. So the thumb, hopefully the camera can capture this, but this is the thumb movement. Look at that. Each one of the fingers is able to move. So you can ultimately do a ball fist. Right there, you see that? right there. Hopefully the camera can capture the detail, but you can see how you're able to kind of curl it up just like you would with your own hand. They don't have side-to-side movement though. You see that? He does have side-to-side movement. He does rotate. Chest movement, not really. Movement does come from the hips though, as you can see here. This is as high as I can get the leg up. Again, he's limited by the pants. This is as far back as it goes. Here's your split. He's got thigh rotation as well. Here's as far as I can get the knee. The knee does appear to have two joints, one here and then one here. So here's the first section. Here's the second section. You get 360 of his feet. This is as far down as it goes. This is as far up as it goes. He does not have inboard nor outboard, and the toes don't flex either. So we might have some issues with him trying to get him to balance. And then obviously the shoelaces, they rotate 360. But honestly, you're not even gonna do that anyway. Overall, as far as articulation points go, he is very, very limited. Luckily, I did order the S.H.Figuarts version of this, and we'll review a one-to-one comparison when that one becomes available. But so far, it's typical articulating points that I would expect from a Hot Toys figure, which is very, very limited. And that is because of the fabrics that they try to incorporate. Here's a close-up of all the accessories that came with the figure. So here is a close-up of the stand, and it says Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse, and it's got the logo of Miles Morales. Then you can see the favorite text there, where it says I am Miles Morales, but you can call me the Prowler. Then he comes with two spray cans that look very highly detailed, as you can see here. And then he comes with this backdrop effect part. It's basically the city and the night, which looks really amazing actually. In case you're wondering, it is made out of cardboard and styrofoam mix. So it's got some cutout features for you to bend, so you can put it behind the stand. Then it also comes with this particular pole with some chains on it, which is supposed to be like where Miles can swing over and all that, just to add a scenery effect part there. So I'm really liking all the stuff that came with the figure so far. Now here's the cool thing about the spray cans. So hopefully the camera can read that. I know the label is really small, but I really like the details that they put here. And one cool thing about it is that if you shake it, it sounds like an actual spray can. This is the sound the spray can makes when you shake it. So that's a really cool feature. And then here's a closer detail of the can, which is really cool. I really like what they did here. The other thing is on this one, they're real chains actually. So that adds more realistic to the figure. The figure comes with this type of style clamp to help hold it down on the stand. And as you can see, it's got the foam pads, similar to what we've seen on other Hot Toy figures. For this scene, I have the Prowler approaching one of his enemies. On this one, I turn on the light up effect part on the head so you can see how it makes the eyes glow. And I also added the effect part for the claws. Miles Morales comes with these two effect parts that you can see here. The first one is if you got the special edition version. It comes with this special headpiece that you can attach near to the eye, just to give him a dashing look as he moves through the air, and you can kind of see how the light is being reflected as he moves through space. And similar effect takes for the one for the claw. One thing to note, the effect parts that come with this figure are really super fragile, so you just want to be very careful that you don't break them while handling them. Especially the one for the eyepiece. It comes with this very small pinion that is really fragile, so just be careful when you're attaching it. If you look closely at the face mask, you will see that it has two holes towards the end of the eyes, and that's where you can attach it. So you can either put it on the left side or put it on the right side. Doesn't matter to get the effect part. And honestly, they should have given us two instead of just one, because it doesn't make sense of just having it on one side and not the other. That would only work if you're displaying him in a two-dimensional, but obviously the figure is three-dimensional, so that's why to me it doesn't make sense that they only gave us one. But it does help complement the figure, as you can see here. One thing that I like is the light up effect part for the mask. It really brings the figure to life, and obviously it takes the 3 batteries that came with the figure. So for that, all you have to do is pop the hair and unscrew the little piece on it and attach the batteries there, which explains why it came with all the warnings about the battery portion. So if you're planning on storing this figure for a long time not opening it, I suggest you at least get the batteries out of there, because we all know what happens with batteries once they get old. If you like what you see, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. The one thing I don't like about the figure is the effect part for the claw. It comes with a little piece that hooks up to the claw piece of mouse, but it doesn't really stay on there. You can snap it in, but it rotates and is very prone to falling off. At least on my figure it was. So on this one I kind of had to balance it to get it in an angle where it wouldn't fall off, or gave enough weight to actually rotate the wrist, which is how we got it here basically. It does look amazing and fantastic, but it's super fragile like I mentioned earlier, and the bad part is that it doesn't really stay on the figure. It is really prone to falling off, so I think there they kind of missed it on the dimensions. Even when you hear the snap and all that, it still falls off. It's really difficult to make it stay. The other thing about the figure is, as you see here, I'm not using the stand that came with it, and honestly for the stand I think they should have made it a lot bigger, or at least the stand making it a lot taller for what they were trying to go with the figure. If you notice on the figure, they added the pole with the chains to kind of make it seem like Miles could swing over it, like he did in that particular scene in the movie. But he also comes with the clamps to hold the figure, and honestly the clamp doesn't really hold the figure too well unless you're attaching it to the waist. And because the length of the stem is not super long enough, you can't really do much with the figure, especially when you factor in the height of this Prowler figure. It's basically useless, and if you try to do like dynamic poses like the one I'm showing here, the stand wasn't really capable of doing it because the pincers wouldn't line up to a good pose where you can have Miles at a particular angle. It just didn't make sense really. That's why I used a regular Machination stand, which is the one that you see here. Follow me on IG at Titandel86. The other thing I would love to have seen on this figure is for the two braids on his hair. This should have been articulated, because that really lacks the angle of the hair, especially since you notice that he's got that star-shaped collar to give him that sinister look, and the hair kind of fights that along with the back. So even though he's got good head movement on the articulating side, it's limited by the two braids that are coming down his head. Since they don't articulate, they kind of tend to stab the figure on the back side if you're trying to tilt the head towards an up gaze, or if you try to rotate it, especially with the backpack that he's wearing. So you have a couple interfering issues there that you have to kind of manipulate just to get the figure in a good angle if you're trying to go for a dynamic pose that has the head at a particular angle. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts on that. For this scene, I used the figure swinging off the pole that comes with the stand, and again, like I mentioned, the figure, because it's really heavy, he's not fully able to grip that metal rod that is designed to with the chains. It looks fantastic and all that, but again I had to use a different stage to help support the figure. The other thing I did here is I still have it with the light up effect part, but now I attached the effect piece on the foot, which is something that they really advertise if you look at the stock photos, to show some kind of movement there on the legs. But the one thing that I didn't really get is it's got the attachment feature that you have to do like a little adapter. So on the bottom of the foot they made like a little magnetic round disc on it that will come off, and honestly after a while with the magnet it wasn't really coming out, but eventually I was able to kind of swivel it out and the magnet helped to pull it out. But at first it wasn't that easy, so I almost didn't do this scene, but I managed to do it at the end anyway. And you swap it out with this other piece that attaches to the effect part, just to give it that gliding look as if he's swinging from the top down. If you like what you're seeing, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. And this basically reinforces the statement about the stand being not fully useful, as you can see how the whole thing lies in respective to the height of Miles as the Prowler. So you see the figure is really tall, so there was no way that you can use the rod piece along with the pincers that come to hold the figure. There's just no way you can bend it or tilt it to any angle to give you that particular angle that you will be looking for. One thing to note, for that rod looking piece on the stand is made out of plastic, but it's very fragile, so just be careful. And if you look at the support beam on the bottom, that comes with a little clamp that goes into the stem of the stand. Just be very careful with it because it's fragile as well, and if you don't snap it right, it changes the angle and might put pressure where you don't want it on the full beam. And if you look on the stock photos, they basically omitted that little piece there, but it does help to stabilize the whole thing. Now if you look at the instructions, it looks like you're supposed to get a even better effect if you use the black light, which is what I'm doing here. So you can kind of see how the colors on the figure just pop, which makes it a lot brighter now. So you can really see the pink areas. They're more neon pink now, and they're really bright. Especially the logo on his shirt of the Prowler, you can really see it. The effect part is glowing as well, but not to what I was expecting. But you can see some of the hidden lines that he had with the neon paint. Now they're starting to come alive under this black UV light, which adds a secondary view of the figure. And it's not bad actually, it looks pretty good. And also you can see how it tends to reflect off the mask, which is something that I really like about the figure, is that design that they did for the mask. It looks really amazing. But here you can kind of see how the rest of the uniform starts to light up. So in this one I have Miles flying down, and I added that effect part just so you can see what it would look like on the figure. The other thing is, on this particular figure, the headpiece is very loose. On the head it's got like two little side foam pads, and I think it's the glue of the foam pad that's basically holding the hairpiece together. I have a feeling if it wasn't for that little foam pad with the glue coming off of it, I have a feeling that the hairpiece would just be falling off, because other than that I don't see how it stays on the figure, which is really concerning to me, because it does have a groove feature on it to attach or like a snap pin, but it's just not doing anything here. So if you tilt the head to a certain angle where the braids are pushing back, eventually you will start to see the hair come off. Follow me on IG at Titan86. Hopefully you can see I also added the two spray cans there just to give it more background scenery. The one thing that I wanted to touch base on is the gauntlets or the claws. They light up too. If you look at them, they have those little pink looking pieces on the sides. Those are supposed to light up. The one thing that I didn't like about the execution of this figure is that for those you have to remove the back piece on the backpack to turn it on, but if you look at the bottom, it's got a USB-C plug. So technically to power those up, it's not running off the batteries that are on the top of the head, or it's got its own rechargeable battery that is attached in the backpack. It's basically a plug-in USB-C. So unless you have it constantly plugged into an electric outlet, those gauntlets on the claws, they're not going to light up at all, which is basically a downfall on the figure on the execution side. I was expecting the batteries to also be able to power those up, but it's just not able to. And I could see how they did the joints that they wouldn't have allowed it to, but I really think if you was going to do battery power on the head, you might as well did a secondary battery power portion using the backpack. The space is there to stick a battery in there that would have been able to power up the forearms to make the gauntlets light up. So I think that was another failed opportunity on this figure. On this scene, I have all the light effect parts working just so you can see what it looks like and how bright they are. So now you can see the glow of the mask, including the light effect parts for the claws. The one thing that I really like is how the one on the mask glows along with the painter's mask that comes off to the side. Now here's the figure, what it looks like under that black light. So you can see how it starts to really glow, and honestly it looks really amazing. It almost gives you two different ways of how to display the figure. You could display it with regular light, or you can display it under the UV light to get a different glow and a different vibe of the figure. And honestly, it's not too bright compared to other statues that we had on this channel which light up the whole room. These ones, they just light up basically to what you're seeing here. For the claws, they're not that super bright, so you might not even notice it, and like I mentioned, it has to be plugged into a constant power source in order to get those working, which to me it was just a bad execution of the figure. They should have just given it its own power supply. Now here's an angle of the back side just so you can see where the USB will plug in. Now here's a close-up so you can see what really pops on the figure under the black light. You can see the mask light up, the logo on his shirt, which looks really amazing, and then you can see a little bit on the claws, but he looks very sweet. Now here's a view from the back side. Not a whole lot going on here. The only main thing that's really a takeaway is just how it lights up on the backpack, but other than that, you're not going to get much out of it. For this scene, I swapped out the headpiece, so now you have Miles Morales without the Prowler mask. and I really like how it was sculpted. Again, the one thing that I don't see is articulation on the two braid pieces. So again, he's got the same limitations as when he was wearing the Prowler mask. And the one thing that you really want to be careful is when attaching the head, one of the braids, at least for my figure, always wanted to go behind the backpack and his back. So I basically had to flex it out of the way just to pop it back out of there. So that is something you want to be very mindful of, just to avoid damaging the braid. But other than that, I mean, the figure looks really amazing. Here you can see the expression that he's got. So on this one, I basically have him spraying the rest of the pole there. So he's doing some maintenance there of making it look more purple. So as you can see, he already started from the base and he's moving his way towards the end. I also put the Prowler claws down just so you can see it. The Prowler claws do come with a plastic insert on them just to help them stay together, because they're two different pieces. One is for the forearm and then the other one is for the wrist. And when you remove them to recreate the scene of when his uncle Aaron tosses the claws to him, they appear as one piece that he just slides on. So to keep with that, they gave you these two clear pieces that you can use to attach them together, and it snaps into the back of the wrist just to hold them in place. The figure does do a couple of things good. I really like the details that I have. I like how they did the mask of the Prowler, and I do like that they did the light up effect parts for it. I just think they could have did it a better way. The other thing that I really see the lack of is basically on the execution side of it, of how they executed certain features. Like I mentioned, the light up effect parts, they could have been tied up to one power source independent of having the figure plugged into a cord. The other thing that they could have did better was the integrating of the stand into the figure itself, especially if they wanted the figure to interact with the pole and the chains. I think they could have did that, maybe adding a secondary stem to kind of help support the figure in case you wanted to post Miles on top of the pole, or having them swing, kind of like how they advertised the figure in the stock photos. I do like the backdrop that came with the figure. I just don't like that they made it for you to bend it to kind of give it a three-dimensional feel to encompass the figure. I think they should have just came with its own little mini stand just to hold it down. I do like the quotes that they came with it, so I like that. I also like that it gave you a hidden display of it with the UV light to give the figure a different tone of light when you display it in your shelf or wherever you're going to put this figure at. So the figure does have a few things that does well, but it also has a few sections where it missed the mark. Especially in the articulations, I kind of expected a little bit more out of the figure, especially with how the figure really is. I do like the accessories that came with him. He does have these two hockey puck accessories towards the front of the belt. Obviously I didn't use them here, and honestly I don't really know what they were. If you know what those were, let me know in the comments. I don't know if they were like explosive devices or something else. I know in the movie they didn't really use them or make references to them, unless I just missed it. I think on this one, to me, it's like a 50-50. If you really want it because of the character and all that, then I suggest go for it. But if you're expecting something out of it, then you probably don't want to go for it, and maybe wait for the S.H.Figuarts one. If you're on the path of getting all the Hot Toys versions from the Spider-Man movies, then obviously you have to follow that chain of line. But if you're trying to get a figure just because you're liking it, just for the representation, then I think this is the one. As long as you know you're not going to be doing super dynamic poses with it, but at the end of the day, it all goes back to what you're trying to do. So let me know in the comments if you're planning on getting the figure, or if you're just going to wait for the S.H.Figuarts one. And who knows, maybe when the third installment of the movie comes out, they might come back with another Miles Morales figure as the Prowler, basically revamping all the shortcomings that this one had. This is all I have for you today. If you like what you have seen, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and I'll see you next week with a brand new one. Thank you and bye.
I'm Miles Morales.